PR Connections Radio presents. This podcast is brought to you by LifeWave. Ready to elevate your wellness game? Meet X39 from LifeWave.com. This game-changing patch uses phototherapy to stimulate your skin, enhancing strength and stamina by channeling your body's innate energy. Simply apply it to harness infrared heat, naturally boosting your vitality. Want to learn more? Visit www.lifewave.com/VernD and step into a healthier, more active lifestyle today.
Hello, welcome, prconnectionsradio.com. My name is Lisa Vasquez. I'm your host for Liberating Menopause, and I'm very happy that you're all here to join me. I really enjoy speaking to the world and women in the workplace all about what's happening in our world, in our women, in our bodies, the things that, we have never really been taught. And the more I study this, the more interesting it becomes. And this is so important today because we are talking about the women rising back into their bodies, but really, had this conversation been around back when I started 45 years ago, I do believe that the women that I serviced in mammography and coming into the imaging center, speaking on different things, would have had a different attitude and approach walking in. So I'm looking forward and hoping that maybe in this next generation, even if it's only one woman that receives this message and really gets a hold on her life, a grip in her workplace, and has a body that becomes a masterpiece by the time you hit retirement. So that's what we're talking about today, because, women, we were taught to push through puberty. We were taught to hide perimenopause and then to fear menopause. I mean, menopause, just the word, everyone becomes, it's. And it's really not an thing because, first of all, as I always say, and what's important to really reiterate is that it's not an aging thing. It comes at different ages. Women at 28 can go and have a hysterectomy and become in menopause instantly, right? Full hysterectomy. So it's not an aging thing. It's a process. It's what the body does. And sometimes when we hear some of the things that the body puts out, we look at it like it's a vomit or something. It's sickening or something. And there's beauty. There's so much beauty in that. And if you can get to menopause, starting from your 40s on up, and follow the track and daily nourish yourself on the nourishment that we need to grow and develop in this body, life would be so much beautiful. And those phrases, they would never be so intimidating or fearful. They wouldn't, the aging numbers that come. Growing up, I grew up with my mother, of course, but she hated her birthday. I mean, never liked it. I mean, man, don't even tell her it's her birthday. And then what's funny, it's on April 1st, right? I mean, she's passed, gone now, but just to know that how much she really disliked her birthday. And then what's so funny, let me tell you this side note. So her birthday was April 1st, right? And then when she passed away, it was 2011, right? So it was 11111. So wow, her life was just stacked on those ones. And I was just amazed at how upset she would get just when it was time for her birthday, and I never understood it because I really love my birthday. I celebrate it. I have my internal peace day on that moment, 3:00. I really embrace my life on that day. I love hearing the story of being born again. I love 1:20 p.m. when I was born. I love everything about my birthday. So, and again, when you can learn and balance your body in this hormonal educational knowledge, you have so much power. You have, things that will be coming across you, you would know to stop and respond. You would know to stop and think. Say for instance, puberty, menstrual cycles, right? When you knew that when it was coming, either, you'd start getting headaches or something. But most of all, there'd be symptoms and signs, things that would show up. For instance, a pimple on your face or something like that. Something that would tell you, it's coming. Or you're talking to your girlfriends and one of them's on it, and you usually get your menstrual right after her cycle. So, there's signals and there's signs, and we recognize them. And then I had mentioned in this last episode about when we go to get ready to nest and create the nest for the baby prior, whether you're scheduling to prepare to get pregnant or suddenly became pregnant. And what we do at that moment in time for our bodies and our life is we study. We want to take those prenatal vitamins. We want to do this. We want to do that. We start reading books. We change everything that we eat because we know that we're, going to have a baby, and the baby needs this, and it needs all these things that we, in women and just women and just women, period, that, they have their own menus, right? And now they're pregnant. Now you're having a baby. So your menu has to get stepped to the side because now you need your vegetables, you need your fruits. You may not like it, but and that's the season, right? That pregnancy, maternal instinct, all that is at that season. Those 9 months, that's only 9 months out of the time, right? And then, of course, after the baby's born, you're nourishing it in its first stages, right? Even the baby food has the titles on it, for that beginning baby, for the 3-month baby, maybe the 6-month baby, the toddler. Every stage has a nourishing cycle and a title. But I think once we as women pass that age and come into, as I told you, 25, hitting toward 30, because normally in the past, people never, stopped getting pregnant around then and started putting things away. But not today. We have this ongoing cycle when women wanting to get pregnant in their 40s and things like that. But again, when they even want to get pregnant in their 40s, they stop. And a lot of them, they're not thinking that they're about to get into perimenopause at the same time that they're planning this pregnancy. They're not really looking at that kind of phase of the cycle. Some of the women that I spoke to never even, that wasn't a thought. It was just that, they finally found that man or what have you, and they want to have a baby. So, but again, at that age, in their 40s, they prepare their body. And so my whole conversation today is just why can't every decade of our life have a prepared nourishment menu that we can grow and develop in? Because this is what that Mayflower blooming is all about for the women who were taught to push through these things. Women who were told the symptoms were normal, and at the time, it was so many women. Can you imagine our past generations, what they went through? And because they were always told that it was okay, they wouldn't even talk about it. They stopped talking about it. They stopped bringing it because they didn't even know how to approach their doctor with these subjects, vaginal dryness, things that they want to whisper, all kinds of different breast problems, different things that are happening, but they want to keep it in silence because of the conversation and that. But today, wow, if you bring that up, there's a whole nother attitude because this is all part of who we are, how we develop and how we grow. And this is where women, I want you to learn the language of your bodies again, not through the lectures and just things that you hear and glance through on social media, because all that can be overwhelming, especially if you start seeing symptoms that could be just like something that you have, and then you see what they did, and then you look at what you're doing, and so it does get a little confusing. And so I want to explore the women in the workplace who perform through these imbalances, the menopausal women who were told like she's ending, and gosh, so far away from that. The postmenopausal woman who was told, accept the bone loss, you're just at that age, heart health problems, risk, dryness, as I said, the depletion, as though this was just destiny, and it's not. So I was in conversation, there was a woman, and here's her question. She wanted to know, she was wondering if anyone has anxiety, palpitations, that, that jumps out, makes them pop up like a Pop-Tart, right, out of their sleep. And they're getting this is getting worse and worse every day. And so they don't know what's happening to them. It's a very scary moment that's happening. And what they're describing, and this conversation about this part, this message is it's the season where women discover that the empty postmenopausal world is actually the most fertile, because everything that you've created throughout this path to get there is that fertile ground. That's where you were farming. That's where you're planting the seeds. That's where you're creating your purpose. You're chasing goals, and you're putting these things on papers. But I want you to put these things into you as you go to work. Really consider those moments of really cooking for yourself and preparing that meal, and not feel outcasted, because of course your food will look healthy and good, and people will look at you like, again, you're that outsider, don't ask her because she eats that. She's never going to look at that, crazy things like that. This is what you run into. And it's okay, because it's really complimentary more than anything. But for this woman, so what she was describing was it's often a nocturnal panic. And because it's called Epic Games, another 1,000 people have been laid off unsuspectedly, right? And these are a lot of different cities. There's no statistics on how many women were involved in that employment, but knowing that, whether they are or not, I mean, if it's their husbands, because the gaming world is still dominated by men, right? So they have to come home and tell their wives, right? So no matter what, the woman is feeling this high raise of cortisol, the anxiety, the panic. I mean, recently we were talking, I was watching the news, and they were talking about, everybody who's under that command that are not working, the TSA, the Homeland Security people, they're all having a big loss, because they're continuously losing, but staying in support of the business and keeping them up. And in the meantime, they're falling apart because they're going into debt. They're not getting paid. So, anxiety is everywhere. So when I read about this question from this woman, what she was describing, and I'm telling you, was a nocturnal panic. It's an anxiety surge that your body basically, can you imagine this? It flips into an alarm mode while you're sleeping. There's a real biological piece to this. And your hormones, they fluctuate, your nervous system, sensitivity, high rates of anxiety conditions. And the goal, if this happens to you, because it's happening a lot. And again, these are those pain and symptoms that are pain and behind closed doors, because again, in this case, they're asking, does anybody ever go through this? Because she, who do you talk to? Who would know, and especially when say you're in a male-dominated home, right? You're the only female there, and this is happening to you. So it's not easy, because in my case, I watch my husband, he just sleeps like a stone rock. You know what I mean? I mean, there's no flipping, there's no turning, there's no itching, there's no jumping around. I mean, I pop around that bed. I mean, it's just hard. And I'm like, and then when the alarm goes off, he's up like a Pop-Tart with no problem. I was like, oh. And me, I don't know how you do that. I really don't, but it's being done. So anyway, back to this woman. So knowing your phase, that is a big important thing to know, because even though it feels extreme, it's not dangerous. But again, the biggest thing is if you wake up and this happens, you kind of want to sit there on your bed. You don't want to really jump off with that response. You want to just try to relax yourself, maybe take some 5 deep breaths, let them all out, in and out, and do it again 3 times, right? You want to bring the heart back into conditioning. You want to bring some relaxation into your body, and you really want your body to know that it is safe, because that panic can really, again, when we don't understand that this was a hormonal upset that took place, the body's alarm mode supports your body telling yourself that you are safe. you reduce so much, because I told you every day we're out there in the public, and all these faces that we see that are smiling and happy and, passing by. I mean, there's so much happening inside them that we'll never know. And, that's why it's so important, especially in this day and age today, is to really be kind and really, have patience with people, because we just don't know where they're coming from. And, the body knows. So no matter how much they're smiling and everything, the panic is inside, the nervous system knows what's really happening there. And so by understanding this, by this woman understanding that, she was so much more happier hearing all that, because it really broke through something that, she it was a panic, as I said. Women, we aren't broken. These are messenger whispers from your hormones that if they don't react and tell you there's an overload in me, something's happening. I mean, this is why things flipped around, because, our wires get crossed. So the body sets off alarms, say 2 to 4 a.m., something like that. And this is one of the most common and most misunderstood experiences for women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So if you didn't know that, that's why, again, I want to be here to tell you these things, because as I said, since February, the world has lost a lot of jobs. And as I said, the people who are working that are not getting paid. I mean, could you imagine the stress? It's just really time to really keep those prayers alive and pray up for the world. We really need a lot of prayer for the world. So when this actually happens and this surge is taking place, your estrogen, it's taking a dip, and the nervous system becomes more sensitive. That's what I was saying, that pairs with the chronic stress, right? And under recovery or emotional overload, the body begins to run on adrenaline and cortisol. And when we're in a menopausal state, the adrenaline and the cortisol are, instead of steady your hormone rhythms. So in the middle of the night, when our blood drops, can you imagine that? All these things that are taking place in our chemistry, and we're sleeping through it because we just don't know. But I'm breaking it down for you, because if you don't know, then you won't know. And I want you to grow and glow. I don't want you to lay there and just grow and go through all these things without having any kind of understanding, because this is so important. And I am so happy to be in this part of the world in this time. And I thank God all the time for guiding me to be here, to be in this position, to be able to speak to you, because this is what I did my whole life with women. And so, in the middle of the night, when that blood sugar drops and the cortisol surges and the body does what it's designed to do, that's what it is. It wakes you up. It increases your heart rate. It sends adrenaline. Remember I told you it's like the tiger chasing you nonstop. It's a fight or flight moment. And so it prepares you to start running, not because you're unsafe though, but because your physiology thinks you might be. So see, the body's actually protecting you, and that's what's so misunderstood and misinterpreted. It's a survival signal. It wasn't there to scare you and hurt you. It wants to help you and help you think. Now, a lot of women aren't going to think that, especially if they're not listening to this. That's why I wanted to talk about this particular subject today, because of all these layoffs, because of so many rises in cortisol and adrenaline and sleepless nights that are taking place right now. And, so many things. We're losing so much today. And, it's a loss, because that loss is disintegrating on us and creating this new world that a lot of us are not ready for. And that's where AI comes in, right? And so there's so much to be concerned about. So women, we are taught to think that hormones are chaotic. And here's what I'm telling you, that's how to choose that. That's, because they're moody, they're unpredictable. But hormones don't misfire, they respond. They're messengers. They want to talk to you. They're whispering, and sometimes they have to get loud. They respond through chronic stress. They respond through skipped meals. Remember the nourishment. Now, if you think back, and if you were a woman who had children, I don't know how many meals you would have skipped during that time when you knew that you were raising this baby, because of course, the world wants to raise all healthy babies, right? So you are going to stay on schedule. And this is why I tell you that you are the baby and you need to be on that healthy schedule. The emotional labor, and women today, we're going to get into that this next season I'm about to start, because women are more mothering today than any other time in our world, because not only are the kids coming back with their children, so the grandmother stage is there, and then the caregiving stage is there, and then especially if they're in leadership or something, they have a whole team that's a whole nother family to take care of, right? So that's a lot of emotional labor that has to go through, because you just left the family at work that just disappointed you or upset you, or somebody called in and you had to stay and cover, but now you have to go home and do everything that you do and take care of the grandkids, your own child who has those children, and your parents or his parents or somebody, so we're overperforming, and that's a lot for this world, because back a long time ago, those generations, certain cultures, of course, always did this. So this is a normal moment for them, but for us, it's a whole big, it's an added agenda, something that we all didn't see coming, and we never seen it a long time ago, because we had our grandparents, and we grew up and we went and got jobs and stuff like that, and we carried on and created our own world and our own families. But today it's not happening like that. Some kids, they want to get married, and they do, but they can't afford a home to buy, right? So they move back in with the parents. So many of those people do I know, so this is why, and you have to understand. So now the parents have this new husband and wife living in their home, and watching, hoping that they're going to save. But with the market today in housing, it's unbelievable. So it's very complicated world. So that overperformance is really a big response from these hormones, right? Unresolved grief. Some people can have a loss in their families. The animals, I recently lost two, a 19-year-old dog and a 10-year-old, and she was my babe. Her name was Ziva, 10 years old, and 5 days after her birthday, she left me. It's pretty devastating. It's pretty devastating because I was just celebrating with her, and then she left, and she was Belgian Malinois. She is beautiful. But anyway, see, so that grief, because those are moments, in my life, it's hard to get over, right? Because you befriended this beautiful canine, and now she's gone. So you can imagine how much deeper that is when there's a human loss, or a home loss, or a job loss. There's just so much. Digital overstimulation. Okay, we know that, because that's been happening a lot, and that raises so much. That's why I told you in the morning, if you cannot jump on that phone right away to listen to other people's problems that are only going to exacerbate yours, and make you think more and do all that before you even started your day, it's really important to watch that digital overstimulation. Again, it interrupts us with sleep, because it actually turned our clocks off. Our clocks are becoming like a penny. They're starting to disappear, because when you look at your watch, you're looking to see if somebody's calling you more than you're looking at it for the time. And your phones, they have the clock on there, but it's all about the phone, right? It's funny, because that's another favorite of mine. I love clocks. And to see them disappearing this way, not being paid attention, because we're not following a clock anymore, right? We used to go down with sunset and rise up with sunrise, and now we are still up at sunrise. We never went to go sunset, right? because we stayed up, we're on the computer still, got up, have to go to work. I mean, I know somebody who, she goes to bed at 8, has to get up at 1 a.m. to take her son, give him a ride to work. She has to come back home, maybe catch an hour. And this is a woman in her 60s, and she has to take care of her mother, who's in her 90s. So, and then she runs a business from home. So that makes things more complicated. And could you imagine, there's so much breakdown in her rhythm that it's unbelievable, because where's the balance? Where's the balance? Where did the body start to heal? It barely had a moment of sleep. So that overstimulation, and then the lack of recovery, right? And that's what I mean, in her case, it's not easy to recover because it's a nonstop, repeatable thing every day until someday when her son does get his car, she'll be able to get off that part of the clock and maybe balance back into time and have time to sleep to come back to take care of her mother and begin her business in the morning. But in the meantime, that's just a lot, and especially for the age. And then when you have all these ailments and pains and things like that, because when I was managing patients, sometimes the mother would look better than the daughter. And so you have to imagine, and this is why I'm saying that mothers today, they're caretakers, they're everything. And so they're nourishing their mothers, and, her power is their pain, because they're going to be looking good. And here's the daughter standing there, and she's just like, waiting for that appointment to get over with, get that mammogram done, get her mother out of there, get home, because, and then she has to go pick up the kids from school at 2:00 and all these different things, right? That's a lot. That's a lot. Maybe you run on the clock that way, but it's not so much looking at it, because that schedule's already all built into you. You already know all these things that you have to do. So when estrogen drops, even slightly, the body becomes more reactive. And when progesterone is low, oh man, the body loses its natural calming, because estrogen, she's the dominating girl, and then progesterone, she's more like the grandmother, the smoother, the relaxer, the calmer. And then, that's just not cool when that's going to happen to you. And then when the adrenaline spikes, the heart races to protect you. So none of this is random. It's a conversation. One woman, women we were never taught to learn. We just never learned the language of our bodies, and why anxiety attacks and feels like betrayal, because women often say, my body betrayed me. But what is actually happening is the opposite. Your body is trying to save you with the only language it knows, because and that's the language we don't listen to. When the heart's racing, I'm trying to protect you, waking you up at 3 a.m. I need fuel for safety. Tight chest. Sometimes you get that tight chest, and that's a very dangerous thing, because it's always related to something with the heart, right? And that's because you're overwhelmed. And then sudden heat, those flashes that start happening, recalibrating. The body's recalibrating. And then your irritability is because you're depleted. And the tragedy, it's not the symptoms. It's the tragedy is that no one taught women what these signals mean. And so there's just so much talk about this, to teach you, to reframe how we're really growing through this working world, to catch you right now at that border at 40, really 35. I mean, I just love every position of a woman, and I want to help them all, but then I help no one, right? So women 40, that's my best place, because I catch them before they really destroyed themselves kind of at 35 to that age. And then before they really get into that perimenopause, it makes it more calmer, more safer, more understanding, so that when you walk into this and groove into your life with that, it's a balance. And so when menopause is starting to come, you've been flowing so well and beautifully and feeling it and seeing it in your hair growth, in your skincare, in your self-care, in your self-love. And, most of all, the mind plate, having that meditation and prayer time, taking yourself into a space where it's just you. Recently, I was talking to one of my young gals, and, I asked her, what does she do in the morning when when she wakes up? Because she's kind of, how would you say? She reminds me of like a ping pong game, computer game. She's just bouncing all around. And one day she was late for work, got stopped by the police for trying to rush there. All these things were happening. And I asked her, in the morning, what do? Does anybody stop to center themselves? Does anybody stop to give praise and be happy that you just woke up right now? Or is it just that Pop-Tart? You pop right out of bed, you start running, and there it is. The game begins, all the games, let them play. But in our world, and to bring beauty into balance, into this world that you're headed for, and that's every decade, every year, and every single day, because we are fluctuating and changing all day long. You would never look the same if you changed yourself every day, right? Well, in your hormones, they're never the same. And that's why sometimes you feel like this. Sometimes you have so much glamour in yourself, So where are you at that time? Did you do something great for you? Were you taking vitamins? Did you center yourself? All these things that you speak to your body and talk about it, it's going to care back, and it's going to give you such a great time. A body that whispers before it screams, right? That's what we want. A body that protects before it punishes. And again, it's really not a punishment. But if it doesn't discipline you or bring an attention to you, are you going to do anything? Because I told you, women know these things, and they wait 4 to 5 years before they actually take action. And then they find out it was hormones and all these other things. But again, sometimes you cannot fix things that have gone that long. Sometimes you can get caught on that cusp where there is no going back, and now it's just going forward. Say, for instance, like becoming high blood pressure, diabetes, things like that, or even when obesity comes in, and all those imbalances that were created. And it wasn't because of the eating and all that, it was how it was being nourished. It was the messengers and how you were listening to your body. A body that is always trying to return you to safety is where you want to be in partnership. When your heart wakes you up at 3 a.m. pounding like a warning drum, it isn't betraying you. So know this. It's calling you back to yourself. It's, and when else can it catch you, right? Maybe right at that moment when you're sleeping. It's saying, I've been carrying too much alone, and I need you to help me feel safe again. So I always talk to your body because it's so important. I mean, honestly, I know you hear me and it might sound crazy, but I do, because I talk to my kidneys, my liver, my gallbladder, my pancreas, everybody inside the body, who's working today, how we building out today, where's this day going to go? And especially in my prayers, how does God want to build me today? What is my job for today? Because there's so much in my life with my goals and purpose that I want to make sure I'm on track, because the road is just open for me right now. And when you come into this retirement, clocks are not involved as far as the time being concerning. But there does come that moment when you don't even know what day it is. Man, what day is it? Or what time is it? Because it's just crazy. And it's a fun time to be. But when you're in the working world, clocks are very important. So, it's just time. It's just time. And I'm excited that we're going to explore the workplace women who perform through these imbalances. So looking forward to this new season I'll be starting. And, welcome May flowers, because we are going to create a bloom, and it's going to be a beautiful garden. And again, I hope in my next maybe 40 years that I have left, I'm going to see this beautiful garden of women developing, coming out, stepping into this world, enjoying everything, because we're not aging poorly. We're really not. We are recovering poorly because we delay and don't listen. And this isn't decline, it's deprivation. This is not aging. We're depriving ourselves from really understanding ourselves. I told you, we have a phone and we know certain things to get to, but if you really read all the details to that phone, your phone can do a lot more for you. And that's the thing about us. We need to check in, center ourselves, And because of the creator knowing everything about you, he's the manufacturer, right? So when you check in and you bring this glorious conversation together with you, yourself, well, me, myself, and I, and in my spirit, bringing balance into life, living, just living and being connected. That's what we want. So everyone, until next time, have a great ending to April and looking forward to that Mayflower blooming and all the beauty that's yet to come. Mother's Day's around the corner, sharing a lot of love to everyone. Take care. Thank you. From PRConnectionsRadio.com, Lisa Vasquez coming to you. Everything I speak on is all educational purpose only. Everything I speak on, if you need to take this conversation, talk to your doctor and ask him some questions, because I give you things. And next time we're going to have some more details on what we need to do for ourselves. Take care. Bye.
PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of Liberating Menopause is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.